Where does everybody think $3.5 trillion comes from? They just print it. It changes numbers on a screen. And where does that value for that 3.5 come from outside of thin air? Your current dollars. Your dollars are being destroyed. Okay, so the value of your dollar is literally being torn apart. Every time they print money, this is what's happening to your dollar. The value of your dollar is decreasing, is going away, is literally just being torn apart little by little through a thing called inflation. And now I'm just going to eat that and I'm going to spit it out at you. So I just destroyed a $100 bill there. That was probably not smart. Oh. So let's dive into one of these topics. Stephen, I want you to handle this one because I got nothing nice I can say about this. There's a $3.5 trillion spending package that was just pushed hard, and Rand Paul has some things, but you want to read this article that was put up about this?
Yeah, definitely.
Just literally just read it word for word because it is really important that people understand a little bit more about this, because a lot of people don't understand the impact that the deficit in the government spending is going to have, not so much on our lives, because, hey, we're going to be gone. We're going to be dead. I'm 44. I'll be dead before the impact of this. Well, I think I'll feel some of it, but it's going to be our kids, our grandkids, their kids. We sometimes got to take ourselves out of the picture and start realizing who we're really hurting. We're hurting our children. Look, folks, listen, if you have kids, look at your kids and realize that their life is going to be very different than the life that you grew up in, very different than the life that your parents grew up in, because of what's happening right now, this absolute nonsense and this risky driving that's going on with the government and the entire world economy and the world governments. So hit this thing, because I got to get this out and I can't do it, man. I'm
going to go through that. And as Lynn's saying on the screen right now, there was, in the infrastructure bill, there was mention of regulating Bitcoin and all this stuff dealing with Bitcoin. And I guess there was a few senators that were fighting to make sure that Bitcoin was not going to be drastically affected or limited or whatever the case might be. So I think that they were able to get that in, or they're talking now that, Bitcoin is now infrastructure. I think everything's infrastructure, out of $1 billion, I think maybe 300,000 or 400,000 is actual infrastructure. And the rest is, like everything else in government bills, kind of wasted spending. But this is something this is a powerful statement right here. This is from Senator Joe Manchin out of West Virginia. And, he's kind of been the one sole Democrat senator that's kind of not all for spending as much money as possible at all times. So he wrote this is today. He wrote early this morning, I voted yes on a procedural vote to move forward on the budget reconciliation process because I believe it is important to discuss the fiscal policy future for this country. However, I have serious concerns about the grave consequences facing West Virginians and every American family if Congress decides to spend another $3.5 trillion. Over the past year, Congress has injected more than $5 trillion of stimulus into the American economy, more than any time since World War II, to respond to the pandemic. The challenge we now face is different. Millions of jobs remain unfilled across the country, and rising inflation rates are now an unavoidable tax on the wages and income of every American. These are not indications of an economy that requires trillions in additional spending. Every elected leader is chosen to make difficult decisions. Adding trillions of dollars more to nearly $29 trillion of national debt without any consideration of the negative effects on our children and grandchildren is one of those decisions that has become far too easy in Washington. Given the current state of the economic recovery, it is simply irresponsible to continue spending at levels more suited to respond to a Great Depression or Great Recession, not an economy that is on the verge of overheating. More importantly, I firmly believe that continuing to spend at irresponsible levels puts at risk our nation's ability to respond to unforeseen crises our country could face. I urge my colleagues to seriously consider this reality as this budget process unfolds in the coming weeks and months.
I want everybody to just kind of let that settle in a little bit. and think about what is going on now. We all know that the pandemic was awful. We all probably know somebody who's, kind of been affected by it, whether financially or emotionally, or lost a loved one. It's not something that can be taken lightly. But when the government turns the printing press on, hits the fast or the super fast, or what is the ludicrous button in a Tesla? Hits the ludicrous button on the printing machines. That's the only button you could actually call this, and keep printing money for things that right now may or may not be needed to the extent that they're doing it. That can be argued, and we're happy to argue it. But the markets and the economy are actually getting back on pace. Now, the unemployment rates are still not where they need to be, but the government can't, in the infrastructure bill, if I'm not mistaken, I think there's $300 a week or something, or however that is, on the unemployment benefits. Like, if you keep giving people money to not work, they're not going to work. I'm sorry. But it's just a simple fact. If we have such a problem with getting people back to work, then stop making it so easy for people not to work. I don't mean to say that lightly. It helps some people. It's helping families. It's helping, single mothers that can't go back to work because it's just not conducive for them. They can't afford daycare. And there is some stuff in the infrastructure bill to pay for daycare and Medicare and all the things that are completely broke that the government does, because the government, just so you all realize, is the worst business in the world at managing money. If you did what the government does, you'd be in effing jail. You would have been in jail a long time, and you wouldn't be in jail for one life sentence. You'd be in jail for every life sentence of everyone in your family's bloodline. But it's just okay for them to do it. I want you to think about what we talked about earlier, and I'm going to go up. What was it? 29 trillion, Stephen? The U.S. government's debt? $29 trillion in national debt. Does anyone really think the U.S. government ever, with their GDP where it's at, could pay that debt back? The answer is no. We have crossed the line. We have crossed the point of no return. But there is a chance. There is a chance. People are saying to go digital, no. Crypto, no. So there is a chance that the government could possibly pay that back. And you know how that it is? Keep interest rates incredibly low, devalue the dollar, because when they devalue the dollar, what happens? That debt, that $29 trillion, what does it get paid back in? These.
There it is. Somebody said it on Facebook.
On Facebook, pay back with a weaker dollar. Absolutely correct. If I had something to give you right now, I would actually send us your address and we'll mail you something for that, because that is absolutely correct. The reason the U.S. government intentionally wants your dollars to be weaker, intentionally wants to drive inflation up, is because they can't pay the debt back unless they devalue the dollar and pay the debt back with weaker dollars, which hurts you, hurts everybody else, but helps them. This is the world we live in. This is why I always say, don't think the government's on your side. Don't think they're there to help you. Don't think they're there to do anything but take from you. I'm not trying to be that guy on the other side, but wake up. Take control of your money. Be the person that learns how to manage your own money. Stop giving up control of it. Because when you give up control, look at the past. What's happened? You ride the roller coaster. You always say, boy, I wish I would have, I should have, I could have. Don't do that. Don't do that. All right, I got to hit this one, man. We're going right down the line here. We're going to talk about eviction moratoriums. All right, so not going to give the guy's name, but you guys can find this. This is public. It says a physician's assistant in Queens rented out her basement for extra income to pay for her student loans. Knowing they couldn't afford to be evicted, her tenants spit on her, keyed her car, stole her mail, and refused to pay $23,000 in rent. A landlord says her tenants are terrorizing her and she can't evict them. And folks, listen, this isn't everywhere in the United States, but in New York, she's right. She can't evict them. They could burn her car to the ground. Yeah, could they get arrested for doing it? Yeah, if only proven guilty. And that is the shit going on out there. I had tenants refuse to pay me rent. I had tenants I had to pay $1,000 to allow my realtor to do a one-day showing. Bear in mind, they're not paying me rent. They wouldn't allow me to do showings for the house. I gave them $1,000 to allow a showing for one day, and they gave me a list of rules. They must have masks. No problem. Like, everybody's got masks. They must wear gloves. They can't touch anything. They gave me a list of rules. The tenant pretty much owned my property without owning my property. And the tenant didn't have to pay. This poor woman, this physician's assistant, which they do well, but not that well in New York City, rented out her basement just to kind of try to make ends meet in New York City. And now her tenant, by the rules, by the laws, isn't paying, spitting on her, keying her car, and making her life hell. How many of you would be okay with that if that was you?
And Chris, in the Washington Post article, the subheadline is corporate landlords are booking big profits, but the extended eviction ban means there's no relief in sight for mom and pop landlords.
No, that's who they're hitting. Listen, folks,
right?
They are trying to make you hate the wealthy and hate all these things. You know who they're really trying to make you hate without telling you to hate this? The middle class, the backbone of this country. They're trying to break the back of the middle class. It's exactly, you see it everywhere. Who are the landlords in the country? Statistically, Google it. They're not the big landowners.
What businesses were open during lockdowns? What businesses were open? Walmarts or, your local, shop down the street here during the lockdowns? All the big corporate stores were open and made record profits. I think 9 new trillionaires were created during lockdowns, while we lost more small businesses in this country than any other time in America. And who is the backbone of small businesses? The middle class. And that's the backbone of America. It's crazy.
Absolutely. All right. What else?
And Chris, you got, people have a lot to keep up with too. I mean, it's, things are changing every day as well. I mean, if you want to bring up that Forbes article real fast on the new death tax, this is ever changing and kind of goes to what we were just saying with, they're trying to get rid of the middle class. I mean, one of the best things you can do for your kids is provide them with something when you move on and graduate, as you say, Chris, and, pass, leave them with something. And, they're going after, one of the ways they're trying to pay for all this trillions and trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars of spending they're pushing through right now is through things like new taxes. So this just came out with in Forbes. Let's see, just recently, a few weeks ago, the new death tax in the Biden tax proposal, major tax change. A key and controversial provision of President Biden's tax overhaul proposal would cost families billions of dollars in additional taxes is the proposed shift from step-up basis to carryover basis. In addition, death and gift would be deemed transactions, so heirs would face massive tax bills. These changes, though seemingly small, would add up to enormous changes and huge amounts of additional government revenue. So they got to pay for the stuff. They're coming after your money and they're coming after your children and your grandchildren. You're not going to be able to pass it down. The government wants their piece of that pie. One thing I noticed that's not in there, Chris, is life insurance, though, which to me makes what we do with Money Multiplier even that much more valuable, because that's money that is passed down completely tax-free and they can't touch that money.
But why do you think life insurance isn't in this? Why do you think that would be something that's just excluded and they just always look over? It's what we always say, folks. It's where the wealthy store their capital. There's no secret. Joe Biden, right? The current president, some people would disagree, but the current president of this country, where is a lot of his money? Mass Mutual. He's got 7 policies with Mass Mutual. It's public. Look it up. We're not making this up. But you think you know what life insurance is, but you don't. You don't know how it's used for BOLI in COLI, as Glenn mentioned earlier. He was like, look up BOLI and look up COLI. Bank-owned life insurance and corporate-owned life insurance. It's not the life insurance you know of. It's not the life insurance that your broke-ass brother-in-law tried selling you last week. No. This is a totally different animal that is totally different. So somebody just said they sell term insurance. I own a ton of term insurance. If you have a need for if you have mortgages and debts and all sorts of stuff that have a term of time, term insurance should be the only thing you use to protect that risk. Because if you died tomorrow, you get hit by a bus, make sure that the house is paid off for your family. Make sure that those credit cards get paid off. Make sure that all those lines of credits are paid off. Term insurance is what you should have. But a lot of people say term is the only thing you should have. False. Complete lie. Another lie that is taught by companies like Primerica. I hate that company with a passion. And I don't hate them because they're a bad company. I hate them because they're brainwashing to people to thinking that there's only one solution out there. I'm going to give you a tip. There is no silver bullet. There is no one product that solves everybody's problem. There is no one thing that works for everybody. There are different tools, different products, different machines out there that work for a lot of different reasons. Find the one that works for you.
I mean, why do you think Primerica targets very, very, very young people, like in their early 20s, because they don't know any better? But, with term insurance, my problem with it is it's excellent for a specific purpose, like you're saying, Chris. And the way I like to look at it is kind of like an emergency accident. So if you just randomly passed away and you had all these things like mortgages on rentals or whatever the case, or a kid's education, then great, buy that term specifically for that purpose, but don't plan on having that term as a way for generational wealth. Don't plan on that term for legacy creation, because I talk to people every day on the phone. They're like, we've been paying in a term policy for 20 years and it expires in 5 years and we don't plan on dying in 5 years. So all this money is now going to be gone and I'm going to have still nothing to leave to my kids after all that. And there's such a better way in what we do and what we teach. And like you said, that's not your everyday mom and pop insurance policy. But this is a specially designed and engineered whole life policy that creates that legacy aspect, but also allows you to create your own private bank and invest in yourself for the future right now and have that generational aspect.
Hey,
so
Steven,
why not have your cake and eat it too?
Listen, every one of these what the F happens. We have a chance to rant, which we've done. We have a chance to rave, which we've done. But we also argue. And I now have an opportunity to argue. You guys ready? Albert from Instagram. Let me read this. I sell term life insurance. You probably work for Primerica or one of those companies. Without cash value. Nobody should buy cash value. Term insurance is pure protection. That is an effing lie. That is I can't believe you even just said that, dude.
Brainwashed.
Pure protection. I own term insurance. I did it for 16 years. Term insurance is temporary effing protection, not pure protection. Like you're brainwashed, dude. You don't even know. Like, tell me, Mr. Albert, we're going to argue here because that is just nonsense. The crap that you've been taught and you're spewing out on Instagram is absolute nonsense. I don't give a shit if you're licensed. Go everybody can get licensed. Oh, wow, you take a life insurance license. Boo. You're a big guy now. You're a big guy. Tell me, what is privatized banking? Tell me. You're so freaking smart, you're licensed. Did they teach you what privatized banking is? Did they teach you what the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers do with their money? Come on, dude, you're so smart. You're a licensed life insurance salesman for term insurance. Please indulge us all and tell us what privatized banking is. What do the Rockefellers do with their money? Where does that go? How about the Rothschilds? How about Joe Biden? Does Joe Biden buy term insurance? Is he buying a bunch of term? How about Warren Buffett? Is he just loading up on term insurance because he thinks it's pure protection because you called him and said? You keep repeating yourself, dude. Teach us something, please. Term is pure protection in all caps. Oh, make a point, dude. You're all caps. Listen to yourself. You're making a damn fool of yourself. You really are. I'm buying as fast as I can. Buying what? Term insurance? Good. Good. I hope you don't outlive it. God, I hope you die in the next 20 or 30 years so you don't outlive all that pure protection, dude. What? Don't even comment anymore because honestly, you're digging yourself a deep hole.
It's a simple question. What are you doing with that term?
I sure do. You don't have the licenses. You got a life insurance license because you're the big guy. I don't mean to, I had to pick on somebody, and I appreciate you too, man. But hey, listen, we got to argue sometimes. That's what makes this show so fun. Listen, that was all for good fun. I was being serious. Here's the thing. Will Rogers says the biggest problem in America is not what people don't know. The biggest problem in America is what people think they know that just ain't so. If you think you know everything about life insurance, you don't know everything about life insurance. Term insurance is great life insurance. I own millions and millions of dollars of term insurance. You know why? One reason. It's cheap. And I buy term insurance to protect my 30-year mortgages. And I buy term insurance to protect those debts that I have that I don't want to leave my family with. Term insurance is awesome. You know what else? Like, this is a really cool one that Albert's going to love. We use term insurance on almost every privatized banking policy we do because it's cheap and because it gives us a lot of extra death benefit that we need to satisfy those stingy MEC 7 pay rules on these policies that we design for banking. So we love term insurance. But term insurance isn't the silver bullet. Term insurance is not pure protection. And term insurance is definitely not the one size fits all. So anyway, that was our arguing. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I know you guys love the argue. The number one thing we get on this show, whether it's from Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, or Facebook, is they love the arguing. So Albert, thanks for playing with us on that one, bud. I appreciate it. And, hey, listen, keep keep selling that term insurance. Make sure you provide people alternative options so that they don't outlive their insurance. Oh, but I forgot they invested all that money in, buy term, invest the difference. They invested it all. So they're not going to need insurance. They're not going to need death benefit because they're going to be self-insured. Statistically, let's see how many of those people that follow that strategy are really fully self-insured. But anyway, on to the next thing. Let's see what else we got. See, we got all sorts. Listen, that little rant, that little argument there, Albert, just everybody's bahad. They're laughing, they're having fun. It's good stuff.
I think we're winding down, man. We're right at an hour. We've made some good topics today.
That was fun.
Man, time flies by on these. That's for sure.
My face got a little bit red. I love it.
Time flies by on these, that's for sure.
All right. If you like that video, make sure you check out this video right now. And also don't forget, subscribe to my channel and don't ever forget to smash that alert button. We'll see you on the next one.